Hello, my name is Ripley Atkinson. I'm the Australian Livestock and Commodities Manager for StoneX based in Sydney, Australia. Today, I bring to you an update on the Australian cattle market landscape, where we look at the current divergence in prices across categories as the recent rally in the market halts for some stock types. I discuss the ABS data release due next Tuesday, showing sharp rises in slaughter and production volumes. And finally, we look at beef exports reaching records, driven by immense Australian beef supply and stable global demand. Starting with the price divergence this week across a couple of different categories, we've seen restockers and cows sort of halt their rally, whereby those markets have started to come off the boil from the highs seen a fortnight ago. So cows themselves, they're down 5% or 20 cents a kilo live weight off their recent highs. That's got a fair bit to do with southern processors slowing their kill chain speeds, with the fact that we're seeing, the cost of getting cattle or cows anyway from Queensland back down into Victoria, it's extremely costly. And that market or the cow market got quite strong. And when you add in the freight bill to get cows home, coupled with the cost of production within those processing facilities themselves, processors were starting to lose some significant amounts of money from buying those cows in Queensland and getting them home. So as their kill chains have slowed, we've seen demand soften a little bit. Add in the fact of the uncertainty with the Brazilian tariff situation for those processors who are exporters into that US market, and the reaction around that with some uncertainty of whether that tariff would come into effect. That's caused some headaches as well for the marketplace. And now you're seeing those prices steady, probably to where rates they were supposed to sit at prior to the Brazilian situation, and also that intense demand. It probably overheated itself, that cow market. We're now starting to see it steady. Restockers are a little bit the same, particularly in New South Wales. We've seen heifers come off the boil by up to 50 cents a kilo this week. There seems to be a little bit of hesitation from the producer to really go hard on buying cattle at the minute. You get the sense that they want to wait to be a shorter spring, particularly those producers south of Dubbo in New South Wales that have dealt with drought conditions and liquidation of their herds because of those dry conditions. You just get the sense that the producers' demand is there, but they're not willing to pay those higher prices until they know they've got a spring ashore. Finally, in an opposite sense, the feeder steer market continues to rally, both across 100-day crossbred cattle in Queensland and the broader Angus market. I had a look at some of the volatility in the market for the Queensland feeders in the past 12 months. The volatility rates have sat around 12% or 10 to 12% or 37 to 40 cents a kilo live weight. When you look at the numbers and extrapolate that out across, someone's sales or marketing plans per annum, on 500, 420 kilo feeder steers, that's a swing in income of up to $75,000 each way. So a fairly significant move in the market, and that can have detrimental effects on a producer's or a business's capacity to operate. Something to be aware of with this increasing volatility that's really raised its head in the past 4 to 6 weeks in the market. Moving on though, next Tuesday we get the release of the Australian Bureau of Statistics slaughter and production numbers. This data will be really important to see how the first half of 2025 has performed. In my view, I'm expecting to see quarterly slaughter volumes reach 10-year highs, the highest level since Q2 2015. Expect to see slaughter numbers above 2.325 million head, and that'll be strong growth of around 180,000 head on Q1 and a really sharp rise on the corresponding quarter last year. Moving on from that though, with carcass weights expected to remain quite strong, above 307 kilos per head, the expectation is beef production is going to break a new record. I'm expecting beef production to rise above 700,000 metric tonnes, and that is flowing through that core focus of or the ability of the beef industry to deliver 10-year highs in slaughter volumes and beef production at record levels. That's delivering us this final wrap up, which is the fact that exports are continuing to break new ground. So in July, we saw beef exports hit 150,000 metric tonnes. That was growth of about 16,000 metric tonnes on the June record, set the previous month, which was a record in itself for an all-time month. You know, the production volumes at the minute and the supply of Australian beef is underpinning those record export volumes. But it also says while we're, performing very strongly in production, there is demand and a market for the amount of product we're producing. When you look at the actual data and the statistics, the year to July beef exports are 16.5% or 120,000 metric tonnes higher than the year to date or year to July 2024 numbers. What that says is July 2024, pardon me, as a calendar year was a record in itself. So when you think that the 2025, seasonal run rate volumes are already 120,000 tonnes higher than the record year of 2024, it does indicate that we're in for a very strong 2025 performance in terms of exports. On that, in the H2 2025 Australian cattle market outlook, I forecast that we'd see beef exports at 1.531 million metric tonnes. That'd be growth of about 12% on the calendar year 24 numbers, or 190,000 metric tonnes. So it gives you an indication of how strong the export performance is at the minute. For access to more insights like today's and others, be sure to listen to the Australian Cattle and Beef Market Report. It's a fortnightly podcast found on Apple and Spotify, released on a Friday morning Australian time, where I discuss current market conditions, global factors, exports and prices, with contributions from guests across the Australian beef supply chain, producers, feedlotters, processors and others. I also connect with StoneX's global network of its commodity brokers and analysts, particularly those from major beef markets such as the US and Brazil.